Hey, what's going on, guys? Battle Nation's Emperor here, back today with another video. And today, guys, we have another month of tier listing units. So last month, February, we did a tier list. We're keeping that streak going forward. This is our third tier list. This is for March of 2025. And as you can see, we got a lot more units in this one. We added animals and baby animals, which weren't in the last one. Raiders, which again, weren't in the last one. And also a few other units I had missed. So this is just about everybody that's currently in Battle Nations. Got all of them right down here in Z tier. And we're going to be ranking them S through D. So let's jump right into it, starting off with the junior officer. Now, he wasn't in my last tier list, so we're going to have to figure out where we put this guy. And I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit tough for me, but I'm going to go ahead and put him at a solid C tier. He got a good ranking in our aura video, but as far as strength, I mean, he leaves a lot to be desired. So SP is being introduced into the game. I'm recording this in the early morning of that update. SP was just added a few hours ago. It's currently 8 p.m., but it was, for me, it was added around 6 a.m., so a few hours ago. I haven't gotten the chance to play it myself. So I think there's a good chance he and a lot of other units get better through SP, and I think we're really going to see that into April, depending on, how people feel about the ranking of certain units. But just for right now, with everything being as it is, I'm going to have to put him at C tier. Moving right along, we got heavy artillery, and, not as bad as light artillery, but, really can't put it up here. I'm going to put it at B tier. Better than light artillery, but still leaves a lot to be desired. Moving right on, we got Ares. I'm going to have to go ahead, and SP could have really helped this bad boy out, but as it currently stands, I'm going to have to put it at C tier. Again, could it expand? 100%. I think it has more potential once it unlocks more moves, but as of right now, there's just better artillery options. I'm going to have to go ahead and put it at C tier. Moving right along, we have the Hornet. Hornet's not bad at all. In fact, part of me wants to put him at A tier, but I know a lot of people, when bringing him up, speak of him as a gambling unit. I really don't see him as that, but I will respect that opinion and put him at B tier. Definitely could see him going to A tier. I kind of want to put him in A tier, but we'll keep him at B tier just for now. Keep a little bit. Moving right along, we have the Humvee. Oh, and it's just my Battle Nations memes and whatnot. I'll go ahead and leave that in. We have the Humvee. Now, the Humvee is unobtainable right now. However, we can go against it when fighting the rebels in the TF2 mission. It took me a second, but yes, in the TF2 mission, you do fight a Humvee, so even though it's currently unattainable, needing Madrona points to get, which currently aren't in the game, still a very nice unit. I'm going to put it at C tier. I love the design of it more than anything, but man, you really don't put two thoughts in going against it, so I don't imagine it's that good when using it. So yeah, I'm going to keep it comfortably at C tier. It's not trash, but definitely leaves a lot to be desired. Moving right along, we have the Young Sandworm. Now, for being a nanopod unit, it's probably the best of the kids. I'm still going to have to put it at C, though, only because it does cost nanopods, and it's definitely the weakest of the sandworms. Leaves a lot to be desired, but honestly, you can't really expect that much from it, still being a baby. So I'm going to put it at a respectable C tier, probably the highest baby of them all, though. Moving right along, we have the tamed sandworm, not the adult sandworm, as that unfortunately is a limited edition unit, not currently in the game yet, but this is the teenage version of it, if you will, and we're going to go ahead and if we can drag him, if he'll let us, we're going to go ahead and put him at B tier, slightly above his young counterpart. Again, pretty good, and honestly, once adults are added into the game, they're probably going to be A tier, maybe even S tier, if they're as good as some of us remember, but nevertheless, going to put the regular one at B tier. Moving right along, we're going into the Raiders. Pretty exciting here, especially once they start leveling up. So we're starting off with the Fire Breather. I'm going to have to unfortunately put him at C tier. Again, probably going to get a lot better once you get more moves, and even better for him, damage over time fire, which currently isn't in the game, but once added is going to be massive for this guy. Of course, he breathes fire. Pretty much every attack he does causes fire damage over time, which currently does nothing, but once added, it'll make him a lot more useful. Moving right along, we have the Cannoneer Raider. I'm actually going to go something a little bit crazy here. I'm going to put him at B, simply because with all of the new levels he's getting unlocked, and simply just as he's an okay artillery unit, I feel comfortable putting him at B, only because he genuinely is not that bad, and for being a Raider, he's pretty cheap to train, as opposed to most artillery need to be made in the vehicle factory. He's just made in the Raider camp like every other Raider, and he's not that bad at all. Moving right along, we have the Raider Warrior, or as I like to call it, the Raider Trooper. This is unfortunately going to be our first D tier. He's basically the Trooper, except, he's a Raider. And he's definitely cool, I don't mind having one just for, the aesthetic of it, the look of him. But yeah, he ain't bringing much to the table, so unfortunately, gotta put him at D tier. Speaking of unfortunate D tiers, I'm really, really sorry to do this. In fact, I'm going to have to put you at C tier. I really was about to put the Imperial Boar all the way down at D tier, but the reason I didn't is simply because the Young Boar is going to go at D tier. My goodness, for a nanopod unit, nevertheless, this guy is just all sorts of disappointing. Yeah, cost nanopods, weaker than the Imperial Boar, which is already pretty weak. It's just a sad sight overall. Moving right along, we have the Baby Raptor. He is unfortunately, as you probably guessed it, also D tier, unfortunately. Just not enough strength, a lot more to be desired. And, you really wish he could, do a little bit more. Also, going to go ahead and put focus on as it just crossed my mind. And, you really can't blame him, but also I can blame him for being nanopods. These baby animals, especially with how weak they are, should not be nanopods. Going right along with the baby animals. Same thing I just said. Shouldn't be nanopods, way too weak. Young Mammoth, you're also going in D tier. Now, getting out of the D tiers, we're going on to medium tank. Last video you got C, and I'm not sure if you've justified enough for me to move you out of it. I feel comfortable doing C here. I did C last video. Not too many people really fought for his honor or complained about it. We're going to keep him at C. Maybe that changes, but for right now, still a C tier. Ooh, I really don't want to do this. Man, I don't want to, but I'm going to have to move Hunter down to D tier. He was C in the last video, but he's moving down to D only because a lot of people made the justification, hey, can you argue him being in the same level with the other Cs, and can you argue him being better than the D tiers? And I can, I simply can. He has a slight, and I mean slight, like 5% chance higher crit against some animals, but that's way too unique of an ability, and for 5%, that's basically nothing for it being his special ability, what he specializes in. Just a really sad and weak unit all over around. I wish he was stronger, as he does have very nice drip. He's decked out like a Hunter should be, and he's really cool going into battle with a, bow and arrow, kind of like Hunter. But nevertheless, I would like to see more strength out of him. I can't justify him being any higher than D tier, as I don't feel comfortable arguing him being C tier with those other guys. So, fortunately, going to have to put him at D. Moving right along, we have the Riot Trooper, and I'm going to put him at C tier. Now, you could definitely make the argument he's D tier. He's the worst armor in the game, and, can't really do much with that shotgun. But I will say this, in a pinch with no armor, or at least him, he's all right. He's definitely nothing to write home about. You're not going to use him the second you get a mini tank available. But, he's a nice introduction to armor. He can take a little bit of damage. Can you argue him being in D tier? 100%. But me personally, I'm still going to put him at C tier. Moving right along, we have the Gunner. And Gunner is the exact same way. I'm going to put him at C tier. Not bad, especially when you get him. He's very helpful. That 3 strike comes in super clutch, especially 2 tiles back. It can come very handy sometimes. However, he gets outranked very quickly, and once he becomes useless, I mean, he legit is useless. He just does not get used that often. I'd say as soon as you exit super early game. I'm going to put him at C tier out of respect. Could knock him down to D if we're calculating everything, but I just can't deny he is pretty useful early on. And, he can clear out a few waves of, random raptors in earlier levels by himself. So, for that, I'm going to give him C tier. Continuing moving on, we got the Shock Trooper. And you guessed it, another C tier. Don't feel comfortable putting him at D tier because it is the Shock Trooper. But also can't put him any higher than C tier because, I mean, seriously, he's just a trooper with burst fire. And while that's extremely handy early on and definitely justifies being your first nanopod unit, he definitely is the first nanopod unit, as all he is just a regular trooper with burst fire. Speaking of nanopod units, we have the heavy recon vehicle. And last video we put him at A tier. I'm not sure if I feel comfortable doing that this video though. I'm going to have to put him at B tier. Again, very nice unit, but for 28 nanos, and especially with the other stuff you can buy with your nanopods, I do like that he's a recon vehicle with armor. Again, my biggest critique with recon vehicles is the fact that they have no armor. He does have armor, and he has that rocket ability. So, gonna put him at B tier. He was A tier previously. Not that I think he got worse or anything, but just justifying it, I want to keep A tier for really good, and then of course S tier for the best. I'm gonna have to keep him at B tier for now. Moving right along, we have Imperial Dragoon, and I am very tempted to put him. Oh, very tempted. Oh no. Okay, thank goodness it popped back. Very tempted to put him at D tier if I can grab him. He doesn't want to go into D tier, but I'm gonna have to put him at C tier. But you know what? He caused me trouble with me picking him up, and the fact that he's just awful. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in D tier. I'm sorry, dude. You have probably one of the best designs. We were talking about it in stream. He is one of the very few units. Actually, no, he's the only unit that's yours that has that color of light blue, that light blue armor. He's the only one, and it looks great, and he looks cool with his, electric rod. But man, is it bad. It's literally just the gunner's ability with the simple, strike range. And I mean, it's sad. He's a nanopod unit, and if it wasn't for that free one you get at Recoil Ridge, I'm not sure how many people would train him. He really does underperform, unfortunately. Moving right along, we have the gun truck, and I am very tempted to put this guy at D tier, but I'm going to be nice. I'm legit going to be nice, and we're going to go ahead and put him at C tier. A massive downgrade, as last video I put him at A tier, so he's going down 2 ranks. But I feel justified as this, as a lot of people pointed out, without SP in the game, which of course just changed, so it might be different. But as it stands right now, level 1 gun truck has that one very effective shot, fair enough, but then an 8-turn cooldown. That is just ridiculous, especially for a vehicle. Not to mention, heaven forbid this guy go down, which happens quite often considering he has no armor. He then cost more than a mini tank to heal and takes almost twice the time, like 2 mini tanks to heal. Overall, you could argue him being D tier at this point, but I'm going to be nice and put him at C tier. Moving right along, okay, now this is getting good. We go to the rocket truck and our first A tier. Definitely, could argue maybe B, maybe even S if you're a big fan of him. But I like him. I think he's a decent overall unit, getting to the later of the game. I like what he does. I think he has a good explosive attack. Comfortable putting him at A tier. Next, we have the Saboteur. And I'm tempted to put him at A, but he still earns his S. From the way he looks to the way he attacks, his C4 attack, his gun attack, all of it's just perfect. I feel comfortable putting him at S tier. I can't wait to get our nanopod drop so I can start buying some of these guys. Moving right along, we have the Tank Killer, another S tier, back-to-back S tiers. And the reason I'm comfortable putting this guy at S tier is he fulfills his name perfectly. What does he do? He kills tanks, and he is very good at it. And not to mention, once he gets to rank 3, I believe, or rank 4 it might be, he unlocks a second attack, which is even better than his base, and he becomes an even better tank killer. Easy S tier, very comfortable with that placing. Ooh. So here we have the Battle Raptor, and I put him at S tier last time, and I'm still going to put him at S tier. I know this is probably a bit of a controversial decision, but I just feel he is so goated at taking out flesh. Anything meat, he is your guy. He can clear out mammoths by himself. He can clear out pretty much any enemy by himself. And I just genuinely very much like him, and I can justify that strength. I will admit, he does kind of fall out as you get later on, but that's perfectly fine because besides the tooth, he's pretty easy to heal. So S tier, keeps the spot, pretty cool. Moving right along to somebody keeping their spot, the Field Agent. Previously in S tier, what does he get this time? S tier. Simple enough, that shock attack that hits the entire field, that poison gas that hits the entire field, whether it be vehicles or flesh, he's got you. And then that one critical shot with this pistol. If you get a critical hit, that can go all the way up to like 50 damage on flesh. Insanely good. And man, we're just going to go ahead and make it a triple hitter. Soldier. I think it's pretty much well known how much I love Soldier. He's basically the frontier of my entire army in my Let's Play series. Unbelievably good. Probably, if not just straight up, the best TF2 unit, non-nanopod TF2 unit, let me be very clear with that. So, very comfortable placing him here. Besides the fact that you get him so early on, and then his rocket ability, you can place him all the way in your backfield, and his rocket ability can hit all the way in the enemy backfield. He's basically the best artillery in the game. Very comfortable with that S tier. He keeps his previous spot. And man, I mean, we're just handing them out like candy now. I mean, we've started this tier with none of them. Now, look at it. Marksman, another S tier. He's like Sniper. He's just cooler and does even more damage. Exactly what you want out of a Sniper. S tier. Moving right along to Heavy. I gave Soldier an S. I gotta give Heavy S. Despite being a nanopod unit, if you made the decision to buy it Heavy, you're probably not complaining too much because all of your early battles just became a cakewalk. Until you get into medium to late game, his hit is basically a Ramsey. You know, everybody buys the Heavy Gunner hoping it's your own Ramsey, and then it's just a massive disappointment. Heavy is genuinely your own Ramsey with 2 other attacks. So very good, very comfortable with that S tier. Moving right along, we have the Mortar Truck, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it in its last tier, which was a B. Feel pretty comfortable with that, and most people thought that was pretty rational. I feel pretty rational with that. I think he has a cool placement attack, and I think he has more potential, especially now that he can get more attacks with SP. But I don't think I can justify putting him anything higher than a B tier for right now. Moving right along, we got the Grenadier, and this hurts me very, very much. But I'm going to have to put him at D tier. Oh, that hurts. It does. But hear me out. He just wears out so quickly. I put him at C last time. I had a lot of people saying he deserves to be in D. And he does. I mean, he isn't on the level at those C tier units I'm looking at right now. All of them at least have some kind of purpose. All he justifies himself for being is in the tutorial, you learn about attacks that can go over things, over barriers, basically, you know, ranged cover attacks by him because, you know, he can throw the grenade over the rock. Cool, buddy, but it's not even explosive damage, which you think a grenade would be. Fortunately, gonna have to put you at D tier. Moving right along, we have the Armadillo, and part of me wants to put him at D tier, but he is fine. He's got his own little machine gun, and he's got a little bit of armor. I feel comfortable keeping him at C tier. Not too terribly much to say. Just a guy with the little armadillo shell. And you really can't complain with that. Next, we got the Hellstorm. And ooh, I could possibly put it at S tier. In fact, I accidentally just slapped it in S tier. But we're going to go ahead and put him back in A tier. Reason being is he's a great strike. Love gambling with him, hoping his attacks will hit. But nevertheless, he's a fine unit. Does great explosive damage. And honestly, I think he's going to get better as the game goes on. I don't think he has, you know, a short-term lifespan. I think he'll go pretty useful all the way into late game, at least early late game, nevertheless. And yeah, very comfortable with that placement. Moving right along, we have Mortar. Probably one of the best C tiers here. However, not quite good enough to get into B tier. I'm sorry. Just not what I'm looking for. I really wish I had more, honestly, but yeah, I'll say this, works perfect as your introductory to artillery. That's what he is, that's his goal, and he does that perfectly. Objectively, he does just perfectly introduce you to artillery. Love where he's at, and yeah, could put him at D tier, but I can't do that to our artillery boy. Moving right along, we got the Sniper. Pretty easy A tier. He does exactly what you would expect of a Sniper. Does it pretty efficiently, and he doesn't cost too much. He is expensive, don't get me wrong, and a few hours in the hospital is nothing to scoff at. But he's alright, you know, he's basically the non-nanopod version of the Marksman. While of course the Marksman's better, he's alright. Moving right along, we got the Sandbags, and oof, I really want to put these guys in D tier against the personal vendetta, but I'll be nice to them. Put them at C tier. I can't get over the fact they are so freaking expensive to heal in the vehicle or payback rate. It's like healing a mini vehicle. And it's like, bro, your main purpose is to die. Literally take shots and die. Why are you so expensive? You're literally just bags of sand. Not only that, I also want to throw this out. Why does he have no armor? Like, it's literally a unit made to take damage, and it only has 100 HP flat. No armor. In fact, the more I talk about this thing, the more I want to put it in D tier. But I'm going to be nice. If you guys think differently, we can definitely change that in April. But for now, going to keep him at C tier. Moving right along, we got the Scout. And buddy, I'm so sorry to do this to you. Ugh, where does he go? Part of me really wants to put him in C tier, but I don't want to upset any TF2 fans. I'm going to put him at B tier. Definitely can make the argument he deserves to be in C tier. In fact, the more I'm looking at it, I'm sorry, TF2 fans. I just can't justify it. He's definitely the weakest in my opinion. Nothing bad with his shotgun and bat ability. In fact, I used it quite a lot early on, along with my soldiers. But you get soldier right next to him, and once you get soldier, I really don't see the purpose of using him. Moving right along, we got the Commando, and honestly, I want to put him at B, but I just don't think he quite gets. I'm going to put him at high C, simply because, I mean, he is a very good unit. He doesn't look like he offers that much, but even right now, at just base level 1, has a very strong machine gun attack that basically is just the shock troopers attack, but even stronger. So pretty comfortable putting him at C tier. Could even see an argument for him being B. Moving right along, we got the Demo Man, and made a lot of people upset with him and Pyro's placement. Pretty much everybody argued them being higher. So I'm not even going to argue. I'll agree with the masses. Both him and Pyro go into S tier. And I mean, you know, I could argue one of them being A tier, maybe even B tier, but again, there's a lot of people who like Demo Man and Pyro. Might want to move Demo Man down. No, I'll keep both of them there for now, nevertheless. Although, I mean, yeah, this is definitely my most questionable placement, I'll admit. So if you guys disagree with that, that's perfectly fine. Moving right along, though, we got the Light Artillery, and I'm going to go ahead and put this bad boy at C tier, right below Heavy Artillery. Slightly worse, but as an introduction to artillery besides your mortar team, it works perfectly fine. Now, here comes the hard one to rank, the Wimp. So, even with SP being added right now, you can't research his abilities. You need Vile to get both of them. So with that being said, I'm sorry, dude, but for right now, just for now, you're at D tier. Last video, we did kind of rank him off the concept of, you know, what he could be. And while that's fine, it's just he doesn't have it yet. You know, we ranked him C last time off the what he could be, but we're ranking him off what they are right now. And even with SP added, you can get him to rank 6. You can't get him his 2 abilities, you know, the thing everybody wants. So for right now, fortunately, got to keep you D tier. Once you get those 2 abilities, you'll probably jump right to S tier. Be the biggest glow up in Battle Nation's tier ranking history. Moving right along, we got the Fire Draken, and I could put you at D tier. I really don't want to. Yeah, I got to, dude. I'm sorry. Fire, damage over time not being in the game, and just being the weakest of the vehicles. It sucks, man. I'm sorry, but I got to put you at D tier. Moving right along, we got the Bazooka Squad, and man, are these guys good. Easy B tier for me. Basically one of the best explosive damagers you can get, and with the 3-turn cooldown, that's not bad at all, especially with the gun truck, you know, needing a whole 8 turns. Really like him. I'm definitely glad that you get the free one at Marin, despite it being a nanopod unit. And yeah, easy B tier for me. The Boyad, aka the Water Sandbag. S tier. S tier all the way, in fact. High S tier. Because, brother, is it good. I made the mistake of sniffing it in my January tier list, and I was rightly called out for it. He's an easy S tier, off aura and usability. Absolutely love the guy. Continuing on, we got the Arsenics, and I'm sorry, dude, you just suck. Easy, D tier, full stop. I'm sorry. Not much to say. I mean, damage over time fire isn't in the game, and that gun is basically a pea shooter. Yeah, it's nothing really to say. D tier. Continuing on, we got the Gunboat, and I really am hesitant to rank naval units low, but I still got to, so I'm going to put this one at C tier. Just a lot to be desired. Exact same thing with the Jet Ski. Nothing necessarily bad about it. It's just like you want a lot out of your naval units, and these guys are basically just the troopers of naval units, for being honest. Next, we got the Flame Troopers, and oh my goodness, easy D tier. Basically just a worse Imperial Dragoon, which I already have at D tier. And heaven forbid one of these guys go down, it's going to be thousands of gold in your hospital and several hours just to get him healed so he can go back out there and die again. Easy D tier for me. Another easy D tier, Scout Bike. Dude, when you're a vehicle and you have less HP than a riot trooper, it's a problem. I can't get over the fact that these guys are so weak and have no armor, and they're a vehicle. Just, these guys grind my gears. Gonna have to put them at D tier. Another D tier, Heavy Gunner. Dude, we all go in thinking this guy's gonna be Ramsey. We think, oh cool, we can finally train our own Ramsey, and he is nowhere near Ramsey. Can't even put his name and Ramsey in the same sentence, honestly. Easy D tier, complete disappointment. Moving on, we got the Matriarch Mammoths, and honestly, I'm gonna have to put it at C tier. It's not the worst thing in the world. You do wish it could be stronger, but it also could be a lot worse. So, easy C tier for me. Could see it possibly maybe changing. Next, we got the AA unit. Really want to put this guy at S since we technically don't have any air units, so I guess he's doing his job perfectly. But nah, we gotta rate him as he is. Currently has no use. Fortunately, you're a D tier, buddy. Next, we have the Powerboat, and just like the jet ski, nothing to write home about, but I guess it does do to the job, technically. C tier. Next, we got the Trooper. I mean, there's an argument to be made he's S tier since, he's the first troop you get, yada yada, but I'm not going to put him on the same level of Marksman, Heavy, Saboteur, and Field Agent, Tank Killer. No way. Sorry, dude. You got to go into D tier. Moving right along, we got the Recoil Vehicle. I'm sorry, the Recon Vehicle, not the Recoil. And I'm going to put him at C as well. Not quite as bad as D, but man, between no armor and that machine gun being lackluster, it leaves a lot to be desired. Next, we got the Ranger. Unlike the Recon Vehicle, which I just said leaves a lot to be desired, he more or less comes in and does the job pretty efficiently, He's got that gun, he can take a few hits, he's alright. Same thing with the Doom Runner. He doesn't expect too much out of you. You don't expect too much out of him. And he does his job perfectly. He attacks in that nice little pattern. He gets out there, does his job. I wouldn't justify him being much stronger than that. In fact, I'll place him a little bit lower on the list. But he's alright. Also, I didn't really focus on all of these. Like, for example, I don't think Ares is first place in C, and I don't think Heavy Artillery is first in B. But, next tier list, I'll go into mind where I put these. So mainly these guys are just ranked on their letter. Speaking of moving right along, we got the Mini Tank. You guessed it, another C. Not as bad as D, but doesn't earn its place quite in B. Now, somebody who does earn their place high up, and I feel very comfortable letting them keep their spot, Light Tank. Arguably one of the best tanks in the game right now. You love to see it. It's basically mini tanks, or medium tanks, better, hotter brother. And yeah, really like it. Light Tank, you're S tier. Puma, A tier. You can make an argument for B, and maybe if you're a Puma fan, S. But for me, I'm going to put it at A tier. And maybe you could argue it being dragged down a little bit, but I don't know. I feel comfortable just keeping it where it is for right now. Nope, not B. A tier, brother. It's fighting me, but I'm going to fight it back. Come on. There we go. Alright, next we got the Heavy Grenadier. And man, wish you could offer me more, buddy, but unfortunately you can't. I'm going to have to put you back in C tier. Next we got the RPG Trooper, and I do like this guy. I think he does decent explosive damage. Comfortable putting him at B tier. And now we just got the naval units. Alright, let's run this bad boy down. First, starting us off with, I think that's the... Yes, that is the Raptor class. Just wanted to make sure. Beautiful, beautiful naval ship. Easy B tier. You love to see him, especially if you don't have the nanopods for a Mammoth. He's definitely enough to carry you. Beautiful guy. Very comfortable with that placing. Moving right along, we got the Destroyer. And guess what? Another B tier. Very well complements your other classes, your battleships, I should say. It functions as a destroyer, and honestly, feel quite nice with it. Now we got the Mammoth battleship. Honestly, if I was to put this anything at S tier, I think I'd get chewed out, and rightfully so. He's going to go in S tier along with the Boyad, making them the only two naval units that get S tier. But yeah, I think it's, I said this in last tier list, I'm going to say it again. I think it's very telling that ever since the start of my Let's Play series, Battle Nations Let's Play, the two things I've consistently been told to save nanopods for is the Mammoth right here, the Mammoth battleship, and storage vaults. Storage vaults, obviously, to hold more resources, and the Mammoth warship, battleship, because it is just that good. Mammoth battleship, easy S tier. And then finally, the submarine. Gonna put it at A tier. Not as good as the Battle Mammoth ship I was just glazing, but still a very solid, very good naval unit, and I feel pretty comfortable putting it A. And that is all the units, guys. Man, this thing's really getting fleshed out, and I'm really liking how long some of these are getting. And just think, next month there probably might be a few new units in the game, you know? And then we'll have an even longer tier list. But yeah, I love making these tier lists, guys. I love having this being a monthly series. I love adjusting it, seeing what you guys say, you know, making some changes on that, because a lot of these guys really didn't change, but I did change some of their placements, just some off the feedback I got from you guys. So if you see something here you agree with or disagree with, let me know in the comments down below. As long as it's respectful towards everybody and somewhat Battle Nations related, anything goes down there in the comments below. And yeah, guys, with all that being said, that will just about do it for us. Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please consider dropping a like down below and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And with all that being said, that will do it for us today, guys. Thank you all very much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day.